Let's get started with some driving. There are two key UltraShift components in the cab: a shifter to select different operating modes, and the gear display, which will display the gear and operating mode you're in and the gear you're moving to. The gear display is also used to alert the driver when clutch abuse is being detected, or when the transmission is in auto neutral mode, or if there is a system fault. Eaton offers two shifters, a lever and a push button. Regardless of the configuration, the shifter has 5 modes: reverse, neutral, drive, manual, and low. There are also up and down buttons and a service light, which we'll cover later. Different OEMs may provide their own shifters and gear displays, but most of their functions are the same. If you're not using Eaton design components, just be sure to refer to your vehicle manual for instructions on the location and the use of your shift control. Now let's take UltraShift Plus out on the road. As with any vehicle, be sure to use proper safety procedures. Buckle up and be sure the parking or spring brake is set. You also want to be sure your shifter is in neutral. It is always a good practice to put your foot on the brake before starting the engine. Next, turn the key to the on position. At power up, UltraShift Plus will go through a self-test. Now, you'll notice that the service light comes on and goes off, and the gear display shows a solid N, indicating that the UltraShift Plus has registered that you are in neutral. If the service light remains lit, or the gear display shows a dash, UltraShift Plus has not confirmed neutral. Now, if UltraShift Plus has not confirmed neutral, the engine will not start. We'll go over what to do in that case a little later in the program. Assuming you've achieved normal power-up, a solid N will appear in the gear display. Just start the engine. The process of selecting a starting gear is the same whether you select reverse, drive, manual, or low mode. First, apply your service brakes. This is important because, just like your own personal automobile, if UltraShift Plus doesn't register brake input, you won't be able to get into your initial starting gear. Now, place your foot on the brake, release the vehicle parking brakes, and then select a mode. The gear display will flash the gear you're going to. Once the gear is engaged, the display will become solid. To continue to launch, apply the throttle. Regardless of whether you're shutting down the vehicle or parked with the engine idling, be sure to select neutral. Verify the display is solid N, then set the parking brake and turn off the key. It is very important that you not power down in gear. This could torque lock your system. Auto neutral should help prevent power down in gear if the parking brake is pulled. Refer to your driver's manual for more details. Refer to the Q&A section to understand what to do if you power down in gear. One note, after the key is turned off, you may hear the transmission making shifting noises for about 20 seconds. This is the normal calibration routine for UltraShift Plus. If you've selected drive, UltraShift Plus will automatically upshift or downshift unless, conditions permitting, you decide to manually override the system and shift with the up and down arrows. During normal operation, the gear display will remain solid. During driver-initiated shifts, the gear display will flash the gear you're going to, and when you're in gear, the display will become solid. The start gear selection may be changed due to load and grade. One note, in drive, UltraShift Plus will adapt to the changing conditions of the vehicle, but right after power-up or after changing loads, UltraShift Plus needs to learn the new conditions. While learning, it may hold a gear instead of upshifting. Under normal operating conditions, simply push the up button to start the upshift. It could take up to 12 shifts for UltraShift Plus to learn the new conditions. After that, it will handle all the upshifts and downshifts automatically. If you selected manual, you'll be able to select different starting gears using the up and down buttons. depending on how your vehicle is programmed. It's important to choose a starting gear that's appropriate for the load and grade conditions. The transmission will override any inappropriate starting gear selections to avoid damaging the driveline. The transmission automatically selects the start gear. You'll also want to keep in mind that if you select a lower starting gear, UltraShift Plus will remember and continue to use that maximum starting gear in drive or manual until you choose another starting gear or until you shut down the unit. The start gear selection may be changed due to load and grade. Manual is a good choice for paving and spreading operations where you want to maintain a specific gear and speed. You may also want to use it during off-road driving when the vehicle is going to descend grades to prevent an upshift. Manual mode is also appropriate when operating in slippery, snowy, or icy conditions. Just like manual, low mode can be selected at any speed or at a stop. If you select a low gear at a stop, UltraShift Plus will engage and maintain the lowest gear possible. Low mode provides increased engine braking and helps reduce brake wear. Selecting low while moving, when driving down long grades, or when coming to a stop, will optimize engine braking by initiating downshifts at higher RPMs. Low mode will prevent upshifts at all times, except when the engine is in an overspeed condition. Low is also the only means to enter or leave first gear on the VMS models. Let's move on to reverse mode. When using reverse, first, remember to select the proper reverse gear for your load and conditions. Some models have multiple reverse gears, so we suggest you refer to your driver's manual for information on the number of reverse gears available for your transmission model. You should also keep in mind that in order to engage a reverse gear or to shift between R2 to R3 with a vocational or performance model, you should be at a stop with your foot on the brake. The same rule applies while shifting between R1 and R2 on a line haul model. Reverse mode operates identically to manual mode, requiring driver-initiated upshifts and downshifts. Just as with drive, manual or low, the gear display will flash the gear you're going to. Once the gear is engaged, it will become a solid display. Now, let's talk about a few of the display codes you may see on the gear display. If there is a traction control, stability control, or wheel slip event, the transmission will hold gear. Once the traction, stability, or slip event clears, the transmission will revert to normal shifting operations. For further details on your traction control and ABS systems, refer to your OEM driver's manual. That's it. That's all you need to know to drive the UltraShift Plus. If you still have questions, as we've said, there is a short troubleshooting segment at the end of this program. We strongly recommend you read your driver instruction manual before driving the UltraShift Plus transmissions. Not only will it give you useful tips, but it will walk you step by step through each of the procedures we've discussed here, as well as a number of others, including basic maintenance, troubleshooting, PTO operation, and diagnostics. As always, if you need more information, contact your Road Ranger Service Network at 1-800-826-4357. That's 1-800-826-HELP. Let's go over a few of the features and functions of this specific platform of UltraShift Plus products. First, you'll need to understand how the transmission works. This transmission features an electric clutch actuator that replaces the standard clutch pedal. It still has a clutch, but not a clutch pedal. The clutch is closed as you launch the vehicle and is automatically opened as you come to a stop. ECA has the opportunity to open the clutch during shifting. It does not have a torque converter, so if you've driven a vehicle with an automatic transmission, you will feel that it performs differently. and the way you operate the vehicle is only slightly different. It's also very important to understand that the UltraShift Plus transmission features Hill Start Aid. Hill Start Aid holds your vehicle for a 3% or greater grade for up to 3 seconds after you release the brakes. The two scenarios to use it, pointing uphill in drive or facing downhill in reverse. We have a built-in clutch protection system that alerts you to take an action if you've set stationary for a long enough time that Hill Start Aid has timed out. And we'll discuss this feature in a moment. You may override Hill Start Aid by pushing the one-time override switch found on your dash. If the switch is turned off, the lamp in the Hill Start Aid switch will flash. Please note that in certain extreme grades, brake application may not be sufficient to hold the vehicle in place with just the Hill Start Aid feature. Creep mode is used for low-speed operations, such as curbing, spreading, and paving. To activate it, select manual or low mode and slightly apply the throttle until the clutch engages. Lightly release the throttle to enter creep mode. To disengage creep mode, simply step on the brake or apply throttle. Creep mode can be engaged in any manual or low mode gear, where you have enough idle torque to keep the vehicle moving without stalling. These modes should be used when operating with the most consistent speed is required. In highway driving, manual mode creeping can be very effective in slow traffic. However, the line haul models are specifically configured for seamless clutch engagements and disengagements in reverse and forward, for docking and trailer connections, where a creep mode would not be appropriate. Creep may exit and the clutch will open if the engine speed drops below idle. The auto engage feature automatically closes the clutch, putting the vehicle into creep mode, and uses the engine to control speed when the vehicle begins to roll in the intended direction. Auto engage and Hill Start Aid are intended to keep the truck from coasting or accelerating unintentionally. Now, let's talk about clutch abuse. Premature clutch wear can be initiated by any operation that causes extended clutch slippage, such as trying to hold the vehicle on an incline with the throttle, continuous launching in too high of a gear, or allowing the clutch to drag or slip indefinitely. If clutch abuse is activated, a warning tone will sound and the gear display will flash a CA, followed by the selected gear position. The alarm will continue until the clutch system cools, the throttle is released, or the clutch is fully engaged. If you don't take appropriate action and the clutch abuse continues to be activated, you may experience premature clutch wear. In extreme situations, the clutch will be held open until the clutch cools down. It is important to understand that this function is in place and will engage before significant damage is done to the clutch. When CA appears and the system deactivates throttle and clutch control to allow for cooldown, the system should automatically reset in 60 seconds. These transmissions also feature auto neutral, which automatically shifts the transmission to neutral if the vehicle is in a non-neutral mode, at or near 0 ground speed, and the parking brakes are set. When this happens, the gear display will show an AN. The transmission will re-engage once the shifter is moved to neutral, and then you reselect your desired mode. If you are stopped in gear for approximately 10 seconds without your foot on the brake, the transmission will shift to neutral, and the gear display will flash until the throttle is reapplied or a different gear or mode is selected. Transmissions may skip 2, 3, or even 4 gears, depending on load, grade, throttle position, and available engine power. In manual mode, you may attempt to skip shift by using the up and down arrow buttons on the shifter device. You need to push the button as many times as you would like it to attempt to skip. The system will beep if it is incapable of making the shifts as requested. These transmissions also offer coast mode. When coming to a stop in lower gears in drive mode, UltraShift Plus will go to neutral and prepare for the next launch unless the driver gets back on the throttle. This is normal for the Ultra Shift Plus and can be configured to enter coast mode at whatever gear is appropriate for your applications. The transmission system will automatically upshift or downshift or open the clutch as required to prevent the engine from overspeed, underspeed, or stall. This happens in all modes of operation. The transmission system automatically selects the appropriate start gear in all modes based on various inputs, such as load and grade. This selection will take a few shifts to relearn after a change in load. For it to relearn, it may take several shifts under 25 miles per hour for it to calculate the weight and pick the appropriate start gear. The transmission system may deny a request for a shift in manual or maintain the current gear in drive, depending on vehicle conditions, terrain, and driver input. For example, a heavily loaded vehicle pulling up a long hill may hold the gear in drive or deny a request for an upshift or downshift in manual, since conditions wouldn't allow for a shift to be completed. An audible tone will sound if the shift request is denied in manual or drive modes. To engage the PTO, come to a stop, select neutral, and press the service brake and engage your PTO. For mobile PTO applications, press the brake pedal after the PTO is engaged and select drive or manual. Manual will maintain your current gear position. For applications requiring low speed maneuverability, you need to select low mode at a stop, and the vehicle will maintain the lowest gear available. For other applications, such as spreading and paving, you should select manual and the appropriate gear. Manual will maintain the current gear position. When paving, you may need to back into the paving machine and pull away without coming to a complete stop the second time. For these needs, select neutral as the paver begins to push the vehicle forward, and then select drive to pull away without stepping on the brake. To use the remote throttle feature, place the transmission in neutral, set the parking brakes, and then apply the remote throttle switch. It is important to understand that the transmission will impede the use of the remote throttle until it senses the shift control in neutral, the park brake set, and verifies the transmission is in neutral. Now, we'll answer some common questions about the Ultra Shift Plus transmissions. Question: what if I shut the truck off with the transmission in gear? Answer: you may torque lock the transmission, which is evident by the dash instead of an N in the gear display. You will also not be able to crank the engine if the transmission is torque locked in gear. To get out of a torque lock condition, do the following. First, turn the key to off and let the transmission power down. Now, turn the key to the on position and press the brake pedal. Ultra Shift Plus will attempt to shift into neutral. Once it reaches neutral, a solid N will appear on your gear display and the truck will start. If a dash still appears after this procedure, the transmission cannot confirm neutral, and you'll need to get the vehicle to a service center. Please note that if the park brake or service brake are inoperable during this event, the vehicle may roll. Question: what do I do if I have a flashing service lamp on the shift device or a flashing F in the gear display? Answer: first, you should note the driving conditions and pull over when it is safe to do so. Place the transmission in neutral, apply the park brake, and turn the ignition off for 2 minutes. After 2 minutes, turn the key on and verify that the fault is gone. If the fault is still present, you'll need to get the vehicle to a service center. Question: what if I see a PD in the gear display at power up and the engine won't crank? Answer: a PD means the vehicle is in a diagnostic mode. This mode is entered by cycling the ignition key twice in power up, and it prevents the vehicle from starting. To exit the mode, simply turn the key off and let the vehicle power down for 2 minutes. Then proceed with a normal power-up routine. Question: what do I do if I have a continuously on red service lamp in the shift device at power-up? Answer: you'll need to get the vehicle to a service center. If you need more information or support, visit your local dealer, or you may contact your Road Ranger service network at 1-800-826-HELP, or visit the website at www.roadranger.com.